Before sunrise, people hurried to a palace in London. They needed to wake an 18-year-old girl with life-changing news. A king had died. Before the morning was over, Victoria was the new Queen of Britain. Her long and unforgettable journey had begun. Queen Victoria was born in London, England, in the early 19th century. England is a country that is part of the United Kingdom. At that time, kings and queens ruled with the help of a government. Victoria was born into the royal family, but very few people believed she would become queen when she was a baby. Her father was Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent. He was the fourth son of King George III. Her mother was Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, who came from a German family. Victoria was their only child together. She was given the name Alexandrina Victoria, but most people simply called her Victoria. When Victoria was still a baby, her father died. She was only a few months old. Losing a parent at such a young age changed her life from the beginning. She grew up without knowing her father, and her mother became the most important adult in her early years. Victoria spent most of her childhood at Kensington Palace in London. A palace is a large home where members of a royal family live. The rooms were beautiful, but her life there was very strict. She had many rules to follow every day. Her mother and one of her advisors believed that Victoria needed careful protection. They made many decisions for her. She was often not allowed to play freely with children her own age. She sometimes felt lonely, even though many adults were around her. Victoria studied many subjects as she grew older. She learned history, music, drawing, and languages. She also learned about the duties of a future ruler. Her teachers wanted her to become wise and responsible. She worked hard because she loved learning. She enjoyed reading books and writing in her diary. A diary is a book where a person writes about daily life and personal thoughts. Victoria kept a diary for many years. Today, these writings help historians understand her life. Historians are people who study and write about the past. As Victoria became older, something important happened in her family. One by one, the people before her in line to the throne died without leaving children who could become king or queen. A throne is the special seat of a king or queen, and also means royal power. Slowly, Victoria became the next person who would rule. When Victoria was 18 years old, King William IV died. He was her uncle. Early in the morning, people came to tell her that she was now the Queen of the United Kingdom. It was a life-changing moment that came quietly, before the sun was high in the sky. Victoria later remembered that morning with great care. She knew that her life would never be the same again. She asked to meet her advisors by herself, without her mother standing beside her. This simple decision showed that she wanted to lead with her own mind. It was the first sign of her growing independence. Being queen was not easy for such a young woman. She had to read many papers every day. She met important government leaders and learned about problems across the country. Every decision needed careful thought because it could affect millions of people. England was changing quickly during Victoria's early years as queen. New factories were opening in many towns and cities. This time is called the Industrial Revolution. It was a period when machines changed the way people worked, traveled, and made goods. Many families moved from small villages to busy cities to find work. Some people found new chances for a better life. Others lived in crowded homes and worked long hours in difficult conditions. Victoria learned about these changes through reports and meetings with her ministers. A minister is a government leader who helps make important decisions. Britain was becoming a constitutional monarchy. This means the king or queen ruled together with elected leaders and parliament. Parliament is the group of people who make laws for the country. Although Victoria had great importance, she could not simply make every law by herself. She had to work with experienced politicians. Sometimes they agreed with her, sometimes they did not. Learning to listen, think, and choose wisely became one of her greatest skills. Several years after becoming queen, Victoria met Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Albert was her cousin, and he came from Germany. They had known each other before, but now they became much closer. Victoria admired his kindness, intelligence, and calm nature. In those days, it was traditional for a man to ask a woman to marry him, but because Victoria was the queen, she was the one who proposed to Albert. He happily accepted. They married in 1840. Their wedding brought great happiness to the young queen. Victoria and Albert became close partners in both family life and public work. Albert gave thoughtful advice on many subjects. He cared about education, science, and new inventions. Victoria trusted him deeply. Their marriage became one of the strongest parts of her life. The royal family soon became larger. Victoria and Albert had 9 children together. Their home was often busy with lessons, games, and family activities. Victoria loved her children, although being both a mother and a queen was sometimes difficult. She worked hard to balance both duties. Albert believed that learning could improve people's lives. He supported museums, schools, and new ideas. One important event was the Great Exhibition of 1851. An exhibition is a large public show where people display inventions, machines, art, and useful objects from many countries. The Great Exhibition was held inside the Crystal Palace in London. The building was made mostly of glass and iron. Visitors came from many parts of the world. They saw amazing machines and new inventions. The event showed how quickly science and industry were growing. During Victoria's reign, trains became much more common. Railways connected cities and towns across Britain. Travel became faster than ever before. People, letters, and goods could move more easily. These changes helped business and everyday life. Steamships also changed travel across the seas. A steamship is a ship powered by steam engines instead of only sails. Journeys became more reliable and often faster. Britain traded with many countries around the world. This helped the country become an important world power. The British Empire also grew during Victoria's reign. An empire is a group of lands ruled by one country. Britain controlled territories in many parts of the world. Historians today explain that this brought both development and serious unfairness. Many local people lost freedom, land, or control over their own governments. Modern historians study this part of history with care. Some people remember new railways, schools, and trade. Others remember conflict, unequal treatment, and suffering under colonial rule. Understanding both sides helps us see history more clearly. The past is often more complex than it first appears. Victoria received visitors from many countries. She met kings, queens, ambassadors, and government leaders. An ambassador is a person sent by one country to represent it in another country. These meetings helped build relationships between nations. Not every year of Victoria's life was peaceful. There were political problems, wars, and disagreements. She also survived several attempts on her life. In each case, she remained calm and continued her public duties. Many people admired her courage. Then one of the saddest times of her life arrived. Prince Albert became ill and died in 1861. Victoria loved him deeply. His death broke her heart. She felt a sadness that stayed with her for many years. After Albert's death, Victoria wore black clothes almost every day. Black was the traditional color of mourning. Mourning means showing sadness after someone dies. She spent much more time away from public events. Many people worried because they rarely saw their queen. Some newspapers criticized Victoria during these years. They believed she should appear more often in public, yet grief is different for every person. Victoria continued to read government papers and carry out many royal duties, even while living quietly. Her private sadness did not completely stop her public work. As time passed, Victoria slowly returned to more public activities. She opened buildings, welcomed visitors, and attended important ceremonies again. The people were happy to see her more often. Their respect for her gradually became stronger once again. Victoria ruled for many decades. Very few British rulers before her had remained on the throne for so long. Children grew into grandparents during her reign. Many people had never known another queen. She became a familiar part of everyday life. Later in her reign, she was given another important title. She became Empress of India. India was then part of the British Empire. This title showed Britain's strong control over the region, although historians also remember that many people in India wanted greater freedom and self-rule. Victoria continued writing in her diary throughout much of her life. She enjoyed painting and spending time with her family. She loved the countryside and often visited Scotland. The mountains, lakes, and fresh air brought her comfort. These peaceful places helped her rest from the demands of royal life. Her children married into many royal families across Europe. Because of this, Victoria became known as the Grandmother of Europe. Many kings, queens, princes, and princesses were related to her. Her family connections reached across the continent. The world changed greatly during Victoria's lifetime. People saw telegraphs, better hospitals, improved education, and many new inventions. A telegraph was a system that sent messages over long distances using electrical signals. News that once took days could now travel much faster. Science also made great progress during these years. Doctors learned more about disease and health. Engineers built stronger bridges and larger ships. Cities continued to grow. Victoria watched the world become very different from the one she knew as a child. As Victoria grew older, walking became more difficult for her. Even so, she continued many of her royal responsibilities. She met visitors, signed important papers, and followed government events closely. She understood that serving the country was part of her lifelong duty. In January 1901, Queen Victoria died at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight. She was 81 years old. People across Britain and many other countries mourned her death. It felt like the end of a very long chapter in history. Her son became King Edward VII after her death. A new period in British history began. Yet, people continue to remember Victoria because her reign had lasted for more than 60 years. Historians later called that time the Victorian Era. The Victorian Era is remembered for great changes in industry, science, education, art, and daily life. It was also a time of social problems, poverty, and debates about the British Empire. Looking at both success and difficulty helps us understand the age more honestly. History is strongest when it includes different experiences. Today, Queen Victoria remains one of the best-known rulers in the world. Her name appears on cities, buildings, schools, parks, and monuments. Paintings, letters, and photographs help people learn about her life. Museums carefully protect many objects connected with her reign. Her story reminds us that even people born into great responsibility face personal struggles. She knew happiness through family, but she also experienced deep loss. She lived during a time when the world changed faster than many people could imagine. Through it all, she continued serving as queen for most of her life. Queen Victoria did not build her legacy in a single day. It grew through thousands of ordinary mornings filled with reading, listening, learning, and making careful decisions. Some choices are still discussed by historians today, while others continue to earn respect. That is one reason her life remains important to study. When we look back at Queen Victoria's life, we see more than a crown or a palace. We see a young girl who became a queen, a wife who lost her husband, a mother who raised a large family, and a ruler who lived through an age of remarkable change. Her story teaches us that history is made not only by great events, but also by patience, responsibility, and the quiet strength to continue, even during life's hardest moments.